So in this exclusive interview, we are going to see Victoria Derbyshire, a UK journalist, sit down with Representative Thomas Massie. This is the representative that Donald Trump has all of a sudden started to hate since he's really been going hard about the Epstein files. We're going to see them sit down with an exclusive interview, and he is going to go after and really just call out Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I will leave a link in the description below the video so you can watch the full video if you want. It's 30 minutes long. Obviously, that's not the full interview, but let's not waste any time. Let's jump in.
Just before we came on air, I spoke to Republican Congressman Thomas Massie. He has been absolutely pivotal in pushing for the Epstein files to be released, all those millions of documents. Now, this is a congressman, Kentucky representative, a true Republican, who Donald Trump used to describe as a great warrior. This year, he's called him a complete and absolute disaster. I spoke to Thomas Massie and I asked him first to reflect on the survivors that we've spoken to.
Well, when you see how young they were, you realize the asymmetry of the power there. I mean, you had Jeffrey Epstein, who on one hand was dealing with presidents and prime ministers and billionaires and knew how to conduct himself and project power among those folks. And then here he is with these young girls. And I think, you know, for me at that first press conference,
Alongside the women?
With the women, yeah. That was the first time that I met them. And I realized, before that, I wondered if it was appropriate to call Jeffrey Epstein a pedophile. Mm-hmm. Maybe he was a sexual deviant. But once I realized that they were 14 and 13, he was a pedophile. That's not an overuse of the word.
And they also told me they were grateful, most of them were grateful that the millions of documents from the Epstein files have now been released. But then they say, nothing. No arrests, no one's been asked to come, none of them have been asked to come in for an interview since the information was published. And as a result, they essentially feel gaslit.
Mm-hmm. Well, if people ask me, are you satisfied? Have there been enough documents produced? And my answer to that is, I'm not satisfied until the survivors are satisfied. That's my benchmark. And obviously, you know, in my floor speech here in the House of Representatives, I said men need to be perp walked in handcuffs to the jail. And until we see that here in this country, we've seen some of that in other countries, but until we see that here in this country, we don't have a system of justice that's working.
Are you confident you will see that?
I don't know if we're going to see it in this administration. I mean,
why do you say that?
Because Pam Bondi has, you know, she's been so against this. I would say from the beginning, but in the beginning, I think she earnestly was ready to release files. And then I think she wasn't in on the joke when they gave her those binders that had nothing in it. Then she found out she looked like a joke, and she shot off the angry letter to the FBI. But at some point, somebody got to Pam Bondi and said, it's your job to cover this up. Do
you genuinely believe that this is the top lawyer for the administration, that she would be, I mean, do you have any evidence that she's blocking stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And she's not just the top lawyer, she's the top law enforcement officer. She happens to be a lawyer, but she's the law enforcement officer. And she's not carrying out this law the way that it's intended. I can give you examples. So, for instance, in the hearing, I pointed out that they had redacted Leslie Wexner's name. And she said, well, we're not trying to cover up for Leslie Wexner. He shows up thousands of times in the files that we've released. I said, yes. But in the one instance where your own department, the FBI, thought he was a co-conspirator, that in a child sex trafficking case, that is the instance where it was blocked out. And so my question to her was a serious one, and I still haven't got an answer. Who blocked it out? It's not a bunch of interns with a bucket of Sharpie markers and a bunch of documents in a room. They do this on a computer. When we're over there looking and unredacting things, they're tracking us. So I know they've tracked the people who did the redactions.
And in terms of Les Wexner, he said he has done nothing wrong. He said that in a deposition to the US Oversight Committee. I wanted to ask you, as a result of some of the information that's come out from the files. In the UK, you will know ex-Prince Andrew and the man who was UK ambassador to the US, Lord Mandelson, have both been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. As one of the politicians who, and of course they deny wrongdoing, as one of the politicians who fought for the files to be released, how do you feel about that?
Well, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But I think that's the right first step, and those steps need to be made here in this country with individuals.
The head of the Metropolitan Police Force in London, the biggest force in the UK, Sir Mark Rowley, was here in Washington, DC last week, trying to persuade the Department of Justice to share unredacted evidence relating to people like ex-Prince Andrew. Should the DOJ share that information with the Met Police in London?
They absolutely should. And from what I've read, it sounds like they are sharing that. They absolutely should share that. And there are things that aren't released. So we can talk about the redacted files, and obviously he would want to see the unredacted files.
And the original copies, he said, of the evidence.
Right. And then there are other documents that haven't been released that our law requires them to release. I'm not talking about over-redactions. I'm talking about documents they're just not releasing. For instance, our law specifically says that they have to release internal memos and emails about decisions on whether to prosecute and investigate or not prosecute. They haven't given us any of those documents. We want to know in 2008 why he got such a light sentence and was allowed to recommit these crimes.
This was the sweetheart deal that Epstein negotiated.
Right.
Where essentially he pleaded guilty to lesser state charges and was given a 13-month jail sentence.
Right, so what was the decision behind that? There are documents, obviously, they had memos and they had emails. They haven't released those.
You all know that King Charles has a state visit to the US next month to mark your country's 250th birthday. He's expected to come here to Washington, DC. If you had a chance to meet the King, would you actually ask him to get his brother Andrew to cooperate with US authorities over his relationship with Epstein and what he may or may not have seen?
Well, I would first point out that it's ironic that we thought we could have more justice by becoming independent from Britain, but the only place that we're seeing arrests are in Britain right now. So that irony should not be lost. Mm-hmm. I do think to get to the very bottom of this, we need somebody to testify. Somebody who was on the inside of all of this.
Well, would you count ex-Prince Andrew as being on the inside of all this?
He sort of has the same problem as Ghislaine Maxwell, which is the testimony coerced? Will they say whatever they can say to get out of trouble?
But what is the chance of him ever giving testimony? I mean, what does that look like to you? Would you fly to Sandringham, where he is now being forced to live? Do you expect him to get on a plane over here? Is it over Zoom? What does it look like?
Well, you have Great Britain asking for U.S. cooperation in the cases over there. If there were cases in the United States, I think he would and could be called as a witness to those cases.
You posted on the 1st of March, the day after the US and Israeli military action against Iran began, that, quote, bombing a country on the other side of the world won't make the Epstein files go away. I wanted to ask you, are you suggesting the president's decision to go to war with Iran was a deliberate distraction from what came out in the files?
Others have suggested that, but I haven't. But I am observing that we're not going to forget about the Epstein files. The war is obviously the biggest thing in the news in the United States, but the Epstein files are still going to be here when this war is over, and they're not going to go away. And one aspect of this, by the way, you know, a lot of times to get to the bottom of something, Congress issues a subpoena. That subpoena expires at the end of the Congress. This is a law. It's unique. We've not charted these waters. It outlives Pam Bondi. It outlives this administration. It outlives this Congress.
Final question. Your president, Donald Trump, used to call you a great warrior. He had tremendous respect for you. This year he's called you a complete and total disaster, a lightweight and a loser. What have you done to enrage him?
Don't forget he called me a moron at the prayer breakfast. I'm glad to be in his prayers. I think is the Epstein files. Obviously, there were things he was upset with me about before. I didn't vote for some of the spending bills because I'm a fiscal conservative. And when our own party wants to spend us into oblivion, I'm not going to participate in that. But I think I have been opposed to the wars, but I've been opposed to all of the wars under every president. I think what in particular has gotten to him is the release of these Epstein files. And my friend Marjorie Taylor Greene, who left, and I do think this battle sort of precipitated that, her bravery in this. You know, she's paid a price for this, but she said to me the day that Donald Trump told her this, that she was going to get his friends hurt if she persisted in helping me get these files released. And I do believe that he understands that the Epstein class is a class of people that overlap with his friend circles. I mean, his domains were New York City and West Palm Beach, and that's exactly the nexus of these Epstein files. The people that he had dinner with, the people that he did business deals with, these are all the same people, and they're being exposed. And the irony is, we all voted for Donald Trump. I endorsed him on the understanding that even though he mingled with that class, that he was different, that he would expose it, and that everybody would be brought to the same standard, and we haven't seen that. I think that's why he's upset with me.
Congressman Massie, thank you very much.
So the reality for me when it comes to this interview, and I'm glad to see Thomas Massie doing it. I'm glad to see him doing it. I'm glad to see him doing it for a UK audience. As much as I don't agree with him from a political standpoint, there are some of the things that he's been doing that I do like. I like the fact that he's not willing to just bow down to Donald Trump like you see so many within MAGA, so many of the GOP and Republicans do. He's willing to stand up and try and step against Donald Trump. But I think Thomas Massie knows something that a lot of people don't. I genuinely think he does. I genuinely think he knows and he believes that there's things that Donald Trump has done that cannot be brought to light yet until there is more evidence that's come out or the rest of the Epstein files have come out. Pam Bondi made herself look like an absolute donut when it comes to the Epstein files. You know, the amount of time she's flip-flopped and changed the things that it is that she said. People with their department have done the same. You know, talking about, I've got the file on my desk, getting the people to come with the rollout, you know, holding up, was it Libs of TikTok, all these guys holding up a binder with Epstein files on it, and then turning around and saying, oh, we've done looking into it, but from what we found, nobody has done anything that could be deemed illegal. But the reality is this, they've been so sketchy across the entire thing that most definitely this is a cover-up. And the fact that this administration is covering up such a massive scandal when it comes to the Epstein files speaks volumes. You know, the thing that people are off to understand is this: Pam Bondi is not meant to be Donald Trump's personal lawyer or personal attorney when it comes to her position. She's meant to be America's attorney. Her job is not to protect Donald Trump and his rich, wealthy friends. Her job is to make sure that she's working on the behalf of the American people and doing that to the utmost that she can. And when you have survivors of Jeffrey Epstein that are highlighting and pinpointing the fact that they were a victim, and then you have nobody from Pam Bondi's department actually following and chasing this stuff up and just releasing half of the Epstein files and then boom, closing the book and saying it's case closed, that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes, and it's good to see Representative Thomas Massie calling them out for what they are and who they are for what they're both doing. It's really good to see. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section about this exchange. And while you guys are down there, do me a favor, hype up the video, give the video a thumbs up, and consider hitting subscribe if you're interested in a Brit's perspective, commentary, and thoughts on all things to do with American politics. And understand, this is my actual voice. This isn't no AI slop that I'm just throwing together. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys in the next clip. See you later, guys.